Okay, here's a typical break-even question which you might stumble across in a test or an exam. We're going to run through how you do it, including all the calculator bits and what's expected in your answer. So Wendy makes some garden gnomes and she has the following costs: rent, salaries and insurance, and then little hats, cement, labour and parts. These things here are all fixed costs because they all stay the same regardless of how many items you make. Here are the variable costs because these ones will go up each time you make an item. So every time you make a gnome, you need one little hat. So you keep on adding that on. So the more you make, the more your variable costs will be. So what we need to do is we need to use the marginal income per unit method to find out the number of items she's got to sell to break even. So we get told a selling price and we've got to work out how many items to break even. So the first thing we do is we work out our fixed costs, our total fixed costs. So we add them up, which is the 600 add 2, 560 add 900, and you'll get 4,060. And you do the same for your variable costs, and you'll end up with $24.15. So this means it costs $24.15 to make each garden gnome. So our marginal income per unit is how much we sell them for, which is 30, take $24.15, which equals $5.85, which means that for every garden gnome we make $5.85. So our break-even point is going to be our total fixed costs, 4060, divided by 5.85. And when you do that, you'll get 694.002. 694.02 gnomes. You've got to round it up to the next full garden gnome or next full item. So that means we'll have 695 garden gnomes to break even. Okay, so remembering you have to round up. Next bit says, write down the equations that you'll enter into your calculator. Now your calculator has to be set up in such a way that it has a Y1, Y2. So our Y1 is our total fixed costs at our variable cost with an X next to it. So for this case, it's going to be 4,060 plus 24.15x. That's our Y1, our line that's going to draw our costs on the graph. Y2 is our selling price times by X, and then that will then be 30x because our selling price is $30, so 30x. So what does that look like when we enter it in on the calculator? So you grab your calculator, you've got to be in this graphing function, you go execute, and as you can see I've already got a line in there, but I don't want that line because I want to be able to start again. So I've got to go up and go delete. So I move the arrow key, go up to the 1, hit F2 for delete, and then F1 to actually do that deletion. Now we've got to enter in the equation for the line, which is going to be 4060 add 24.15x. So don't put delete there, 4060 plus 24, and then X is there. Go execute and it asks for your next line, which we know is going to be 30x. And then we've got our two equations in there. And then we can draw it. So if we go F6 draw, and you can see that my lines are there, but they're so wide apart that I can't do any calculations. They must intersect on your screen to be able to do an intersection point is what you need. So what we can do is we can try shift zooming auto to see if it makes any difference, and it doesn't. It gives us our two lines and it doesn't help us. So we have to go shift zoom, we want to move out, and see over there is where the cursor is, so we want to move it across this way a little bit, and let's see what happens if we go zoom out there. We're getting better. Shift zoom out, so I'll just keep on zooming out until I get to where I'm wanting to go. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to get my little cursor right across to the side where I know they're going to intersect over here somewhere, and try zooming out again, which works okay. Now it's getting there. Shift zoom, we'll go it again. Now you can see that this takes a bit of time to do this, and you've just got to move it across and keep on going like that until you get the two lines intersecting. It doesn't matter if you're a mile away from it or those kind of things, you just got to be able to see the intersection point. Okay, if I've kept zooming out, and then you can see now I've got my two lines there. I can't quite tell the two apart, but I know kind of what they're going to look like. So now I can go Shift G solve and choose the intersection button, and it will work out the intersection for me, which means that on the screen it's working out that you can see the lines and they're intersecting. But notice how I can't see what's going on. That doesn't matter. But whenever you get a question like this, you can know automatically that you can draw a graph like this. It's going to be your costs, it's going to be income. Okay, and you've got your break-even graph for your garden gnomes. You've got a title there. You've got number of items needing to break even down here and the dollar sign there. So that tells us what's going on. So you know that's what it's going to look like. So now you can actually put back in the information off your calculator. We don't need to know what your calculator looks like. We just need to find the intersection point. So showing you how to do the intersection point again. Shift, G solve, intersect, which is F5, and it will trace it around and it will say the intersection point is 694.01 and 20,820. So what we're going to do is in here just label it 694, the comma, and then we put in the 20,820.5. So over here 20,820.5 and bracket. So now you've labelled the graph. It's a sketch picture of the graph, label the points of intersection. You've done that. So if you kind of came down here, that'd be 694.01 or 695 gnomes. So you've done the both things. Now notice again that on your calculator it doesn't look anything like your graph, but that doesn't matter because you've got the bits of intersection there, the points of intersection. Let's go to the next part of the question and see what happens. Okay, the next part of the question says a rival company decides to sell the gnomes for $60 each. So the selling price is different. On your graph, add what this line would look like in a different color. So all we have to do is we've already got our information into our calculator. We want to add another line in there. So our line is going to be 60, because this is our new income line, X. And we can draw it. And you go, oh my goodness, there's three lines there, what's going to happen? And you can't quite see what's going on. You can either go auto and zoom in close and see what's going on, or you can leave it like it is. Because you know that if you sell more items, you sell items for a higher price, you're going to have to sell less of them to break even. So you can automatically sketch in a line that looks like this. And then all we need to do is put in the intersection points. So this is the $60 gnomes. And this is here is our $30 gnomes. So on our calculator, we go Shift, G solve intersections. We want to intersect that first line. So we go execute, not the second line. So we move the arrow key down, and that's the next line is the third line. So this will now work out for us the intersection point of the new line we've put there. And notice that it's x equals 113.2. So on here you can write 113.2, and then your x value, or your y value, is going to be 6794.9. 6794.9. So that gives you an intersection point there and tells you the number that is required to break even. So now you need 114 gnomes at that new price to break even. So that is quite impressive. Now part E says, what would you advise Wendy to do in terms of pricing her gnomes? Now that's kind of a bit of a loaded question because there's lots of things you can do. What you could do is she could increase her price to try to match the other ones. Now that seems a bit silly because if she increases her price she doesn't have to sell as many. But if she keeps on selling what she can, she'll still break even. She'll still make enough money. So she could in a price. She could advertise to get a bigger market share, which means that people will now come to her shop and get her garden gnomes. She might want to improve the quality of her items to try to make sure people go, these are great quality, I'll buy a whole lot of them. Or if the market's becoming saturated, she might need to change her item that she's selling. Because if the market's getting completely flooded by all these garden gnomes and no one else wants them, hey, you might as well cut your losses and get out of there. So she can increase her price a little bit if she needs to, but because hers are cheaper, she needs to sell more, so hers have to be more attractive. So what she might need to do is advertise to get a bigger market share so she can still sell these things.